We unite to win each fight. We give you the choice of a liberal voice. We unite to win each fight. We give you the choice of a liberal voice.
Aboro, Aboye, Abosheshe, and Ekabo to the Ifá-Orisa Community Discussion Program. I am your host, Ifa Bemero, and today's topic is building a sustainable community one step at a time. Today's program is going to be a bit long, and it is possible that I might not be able to complete the topic in one session. So we may have to have another session where we're going to discuss some of these ideas of having a sustainable community. And as usual, before I get into the program, I'm going to open with an oriki. Ope nifun olorun, oludumare oba ajiki, mojiloni, mogun meri aye, iba ila orun, iba iwo orun, iba ariwa, iba gusu, iba oba igba aye, iba baba, iba yeye, iba atiwo orun, ibashe igungun kiki igungun, ibashe ori inu ipori atiwo orun. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Our reading today is going to be from the Odu Osa Owonrin. Alright, this particular Odu is sometimes called Osa Asu or Alasuada or Osa Asuada. And it is going to be related very much to the discussion today. It reads, all goodness become a grouping together in harmony. The grouping together, the strands of the hair covers the head. The grouping together of hairs on the chin becomes the object of attention. The grouping together of trees become a forest. Alasuada. Great being who creates all beings in groups. We ask you to humbly that you grant us things gathered in groups so that they bring together all good things for us. Bees form a swarm. Brooms are formed from bundles of twigs. An eligiri bird flies in flocks. It is a grouping together that we encounter grass. It is groups that locusts consume the farm. It is in groups that we find the dragonfly. Dew pouring lightly, was used to create the world, and likewise was done to create the earth, so that the goodness of togetherness could come forth at once. Indeed, all goodness took the form of gathering together in harmony. Now, if one Ori encounters good, it will spread out and touch 200. 4 If just one Ori experiences good, it will spread out and touch 200. All right, and that is the Odu Osa Owonrin, and I read the essay Ifa number 2 from that Odu. All right, before I begin today's discussion on sustainable community, as usual, I incorporate etymology in the teaching. But today, I just want to introduce an aspect of the subject of etymology, right? Every word has an optic origin and a sonic origin. For example, the letter L has an optic origin and it is symbolic of the penis. And its sonic origin in the human infant crying, the I vowel sound. Similarly, the K letter has an optic origin and is the vagina. And its sonic origin is the human infant crying, vowel I sound. Hence, K is equal to key. Alright? So, that is what I would introduce this week. And we would have future discussions on words that has sonic origin, which means it's based on a song, and then words that has optic origin, that is based on what we see. All right, for instance, some languages, the characters of the language is very graphic, it's very artistic. All right, Kemetic alphabet, and or what a lot of people call hieroglyphics, is very artistic. We seem to be having a lot of technical problems, but nonetheless, we're going to work through it. So as I was saying, for example, hieroglyphics is very artistic, and a lot of the words used in hieroglyphics as a result are optical words. All right. So now, let me go directly now to today's lesson. All right. What we're going to discuss, some of it was mentioned in the essay Ifa. And for us to look at forming a community, we have to understand what the actual word community itself actually means. Many of us would be familiar with the word community, and we would think that we have a very clear concept of what it is whenever a person uses the word community. The word community, beside English, it also appears in the Yoruba language in two forms, or in two words. One of the words is Asuada, and the other word is Alasuada. All right. Now, Alasuada, in reference to community, has a particular meaning, which I'm going to get into shortly. But beside the word Alasuada, there is also the word Ara Ilu, and there is also the word Egbe, that sometimes could be used interchangeably. Right? Asuada translates to togetherness as well as to community. Now, the same word Alasuada is sometimes used in reference to the blessings that are derived from people working cooperatively together. All right, and the Odu that supports it is the Odu that I read earlier. Now, the word Alasuada is made up of several components. So we're going now into a little etymology and we're applying it to Yoruba in this instance. All right. Alasuada is in reference to he who molds destinies together. All right. Some refer to it as a deity that does that particular function. Allah, which I think I mentioned in one of the previous lessons, represents several different concepts. But in the word Alasuada, the word Allah represents the owner. The word Asu is interpreted or interpolated as molder. The word Iwa in this usage represents the concept of destiny, and the last part of the word Da represents together. All right. Now, Eniyan in some interpretations mean the perfect human, but in this instance here, when we use the word Enya, we are talking about the human race. All right. So the term Alasuada, Enya, refers to he who molds together the destiny of the human race. Asuada Enya, which is the other term, refers to the molding together of the destinies of the human race. All right. So Alasuada speaks about the person who's responsible, and Asuada talk about the humans coming together. All right. And as I've said earlier, the term is in reference to the blessings or the benefits of people uniting together. Now, as part of the cosmological concept of Ifá-Orisa, we believe that things in nature has been created to function in a particular order. And in observing nature, we would realize that the example nature set encourages all living things to live together and to function harmoniously or in balance. Because the true essence of Ifá-Orisa is to live in balance with the universe and with everything that operates within that framework of the universal order. So yes, nature encourages everything to function in harmony with each other. Now, if we were to observe human beings from the earliest of times, we would realize for the survival of any group, it was necessary for them to live communally in order to derive the benefits of the protections and different things. But because of the length of time that human beings has been living in communities, the living in these communities has helped to develop the basis for things such as ethics, morals, values, and in the case of our tradition, the value of what we call Iwa Pèlé. All right. Iwa, as I mentioned before, is destiny. But to a great extent, a person's destiny is very much dependent on their character. So the word Iwa sometimes also refers to a person's character. And in this case, the word I used was Iwa Pèlé. And the word Iwa Pèlé implies a gentle character. And I believe the reason that the emphasis is on ethics, morals, values, and having a gentle character is because having a gentle character makes quite well for harmonious relationships. Alright? So hence in our tradition, what we do is we encourage all devotees to live in harmony. Alright? Now, because of our history in the diaspora here, many of the values that are attributed to our traditional mode of living, which sometimes is referred to as Isheshe, we have a unique situation because of slavery. Slavery has created a lot of trauma in our people, a lot of injuries and a lot of damages. Psychologically, emotionally, and genetic. So we must consider the fact that we have inherited the DNA from our ancestors, but we must also consider within those DNA, within that biochemistry that gives us the characteristics of those who lived before us, has been transmitted a lot of the information genetically that would have included trauma. So because of this, there is some variation to what our community ideally here would be like versus the values of Isheshe in our mother country, where for many generations the tradition has went on untouched. Right? Now when I say untouched, I mean as far as the freedom of practice. But as long as you have colonization, of course, you would have some measure of changes and of influence over what would have been taking place culturally. What I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss a few of the ethical qualities that are essential for people to live harmoniously. So as long as we are talking about a community and we are talking about sustainability, we as descendants of slavery and products of a system of oppression, we have to address some of the fundamental habits, behaviors, and mannerisms that would have affected the way we see each other and the way we relate to each other. So I'm going to call out some ethical principles by which we must look at, consider, and operate under if we were to have good relations with each other as a community. Many of these fall under a principle of Isheshe that is called Omoluabi. Alright, but today's lesson is not really about Omoluabi, but I'm going to call these ethical qualities that every person who wishes to be successful in coming together with our people and being able to derive the economic benefits as well as the social benefits of us uniting. The first quality that we're going to look at, and the reason I'm looking at it in the way that I'm looking at it, is through etymology, is so that we will have a very clear understanding of what these words originally meant and how we are to interpret the understanding of these words in a way that we could apply them in a functional way to our lives. All right, the first thing that is listed here is honesty. All right, this is a term we hear all the time. Oh, be an honest person. Yes, that's an honest man. You know, honesty is such a rare quality. We use all these different terms. But today, we are really going to delve a bit into understanding what this word actually means and what it meant when it was first coined and used in this language. Right? We're going to see the languages it was borrowed from and how it was used. All right? The root word of the word honesty is the word hone. H-O-N-E. All right? And this word was an Old English word. Sometimes it was spelled H-O-N. And the word hone means stone. All right? So, the word stone is used traditionally as a marker, whether it's to determine distance or anything else, whether it's rules that were written in stone or something that we could identify as if you're going to the countryside, you would have something that is called a milestone. In Old English, that was called a hon or a hone. All right, because it was used as a marker to measure distance. Okay, so the concept of the root word for the word honest is a marker. Now, let's go into a little bit of psychology. Human behavior is generally marked or controlled by their thinking. So the maxims of a person's action is going to be determined by what they think. I want you all to understand that. So most human behavior is directly linked and in some cases controlled by what they think. Because, and why I say sometimes is because we have something called reflexes. So sometimes we have actions that are reflexive actions and they are not controlled by the process of thought. All right, so that's why I made sure and I mentioned it being sometimes. Now, the word honest by definition, based on the root word, would mean marked by uprightness or probity, P-R-O-B-I-T-Y. All right. So the aspect of the word honesty, the first aspect of it, it is something that is marked by, and then you'll name the qualities. So an honest person is a person who is marked by uprightness, probity, a person who's comely, a person who's decent, a person who's respectable is considered an honest person. Another definition lists a range of characteristics that is associated to honesty as an aspect of a human character. And these things are respectability, character, and the word character here not being used loosely but is in reference to good character, reputation, the character or quality of being honest, sincerity, honor, virtue, upright conduct, conformity to justice, and moral rectitude. These are all the qualities, the characteristics that are associated to honesty. To being honest and to being marked by having an upright or probity as part of your makeup. So when people talk about honesty, this is what they are talking about. The main characteristics that you could be identified by, being along the line of the things that were listed here. All right? The second quality that we look at, or that we is looking at, is the quality of reliability. The question would be asked, are you a reliable person? And we are going to look at now what this word reliable actually means. The word reliable is a compound word. It's two words joined together. Or another term for it is an interpolated word, where you join two separate words. The word reliable, the first part is really, and the last part is able. So when you talk about a person being reliable, you're talking about a person who is really able. All right? Let's now go and look into the definition. The definition is to be relied on or to be trusted, worthy of confidence or trustworthy. To be trusted or worthy of confidence. So there goes reliable, it's really able. So these are the qualities, and I'm going to go on now to the next word. The next word is stable. This is a very common word that we hear. Stable. Are you a stable person? What do we mean when we use that word or that term to describe ourselves or to inquire of someone else? The term stable comes from the word stub or stake. That's the origin of the word. Stub or stake. That's where the word stable came from. Now, the word stable, and I want to say this too before I go further. Let me just mention this. Words, you would hear some people, when we were in elementary school, they told us about word and meaning. And they tell us about vocabulary. Alright? Words on their own could mean very little or nothing. What words have is usage, not meaning. A group of words constructed together could mean something. Because you can look at one word in that group and put it in another group of words and it would have a totally different concept created by the group of words. So what we were taught that words have meaning is really a fallacy. What words have is usage. And the usage would vary depending on the group of words that is used together with that one word. And that, my friend, when you group words together that could convey ideas clearly, it is called context. So when you hear somebody, he always talking out of context. When we say that commonly, what we mean is that person that's, we talking about one thing and that person talking about something totally unrelated. Right? But what context actually means is using a family of words together to express an idea. That's what it means. So let's go back to the definition and the usage of the word. stable or a stable refers to a building for housing horses and cattle. So now we can see from this definition where stable, the root word being stub or stake, because when you put a stake in the ground, you normally would tie an animal so that the animal cannot go anywhere. So the term stable is sometimes used to describe housing that is used for horses and cattle, meaning it's a place that they would stay, not move. But because of the housing, they would be protected from the elements. So even though this particular definition is in reference to the animals, it is still true to the original usage, which is a stake or a stub. The next definition that I have here, well, actually, after they mention the building for horses and cattle, and they also use an example of a pig sty. Okay, so it is also a stall or enclosure for animals. So we move from horses and cattle and pigsty now as a house used for animals, or an enclosure used for animals. All right. Second definition, stable could also mean able to remain erect. So what they do is they drop the S and now you have the ST and you have the word able. So they drop the sound of the ST. So they say able to remain erect. That means upright in a standing position. All right. Not liable to fail or vary. So not being liable to fail or vary is the human aspect of a person's character. So when they ask if you're a stable person, or if you claim to be a stable person, you are saying that most likely whatever you set your mind to doing, you would not fail. And you would not vary. So sometimes when you hear people use the term, oh, this person is mentally unstable, what they are talking about is the person's inability to stay focused on one thing for any extended period. So their mental capacity is always variable. So when you hear the word un appear before the word stable, it's a negation. Meaning, if stable mean one thing, the word un in front of it is going to mean the opposite. That's what I mean when I say a negation. But I don't want to use too much fancy words. All right? So, stable here speaks about not liable to fail, vary, not liable to vary, or to be steadfast. Okay, these are the concepts associated to being stable. All right. Now, another etymology dictionary refer to fix as being firmly established, not easily moved, or shaken, or overthrown. All right. I believe this is the Webster Universal, and it refers to steady in purpose, constant, firm in resolution, not easily diverted from a purpose. And the third definition is fixed, steady, firm, not easily surrendered, changed, or abandoned. As a man with stable principles. That's an example. All right. The next word we're going to look at is the word foresight. This is a quality that is needed in our people, particularly in our leaders, because it's an important quality when you are trying to take a plan, a program, an idea, or anything to its final stage. The term foresight translates to prescience, right? From which we get the word presence. Foreknowledge, prognostication, and it describes the act of foreseeing. The second definition is provident care and prudence in guarding against evil. All right? So the concept of foresight is being able to see ahead of some occurrence before it happens. So this is one of the reasons why they gave the word prognostication. All right? The next quality is altruism. All right, so the word we're going to look at is altruistic. All right? And the definition is devotion to the welfare of others. So this deals with the idea, the word altruistic came from the French word altruisme, which means somebody else. All right? It was first coined by Auguste Comte. Okay? In his document, Philosophie Positive. In French, it is also the word altrui, A-L-T-R-U-I, which means to express the opposite of egoism. Generally, in common speech, when we talk about the opposite of egoism, we talk about something called humility. But we are going to look at it because it is on this list. And I can guarantee you, you're going to be really surprised when you hear what the word humility is really in reference to and about. But let's go. Altruism was a term first used or employed by positivists or followers of the French philosopher Comte to signify devotion to others or to humanity, and it is described as the opposite of selfishness. So this, my friends, is an absolutely essential quality for our people born in the diaspora who wishes to work with others in a community. We must have a sense of altruism, where we don't put ourselves first, where we don't think of ourselves, but we think of the interests of others first. Again, it may sound or appear to be the type of quality that is only needed in leaders, but no. If we have to come together to get the benefit of unity, we must have the quality of being able to put others before ourselves. This includes me. This teaching is not just for everyone out there of our people who is in earshot of this particular stream. This lesson is also for me too, because in life we always have these challenges. All right? The sixth word we're going to look at now is a word that I just mentioned, because we normally associate a lack of ego, a lack of selfishness to being humble. So I'm going to look at the word humble now. The word humble is a borrowed word from French and from Latin. And the word that it came from is humilis, which means from the ground. So when you hear a word like humus and human, and the word humilis in both French and Latin means the ground. So we borrowed that. So the first part of it, with the hum, come from the word humilis. Alright? It also means with silence, because it means the ground, and from our understanding of how the ground works, generally it don't make a sound. So in relation to that same word humilis and humus, it is associated to being silent. In the second stream, I spoke about the ground, I spoke about the magnetic field, I talk about going down, I talk about rituals, I talk about going down in sackcloth and ashes. So here now we meet in the word now, humilis, that has to do with the ground. Alright, let me continue. One of the definitions in the etymology dictionary was having a low estimate of oneself, or to be of lowly condition. This is very important. I'm going to read again. This is from the Universal. The Webster Universal, by the way, is an American publication that was done by Noah Webster's in the 30s. Right? So, I believe it's 1830. It's a very old dictionary. So, during the time when a lot of these dictionaries were being put together, African people in the diaspora here, most of us were not reading. So at the time, they felt very free to put anything they wanted in dictionaries, particularly, namely, the truth. Because modern dictionaries now come abridged, meaning they change up words, they exclude words that are considered obsolete, and they add new words. And the definitions found in most of the modern and unabridged dictionaries are connotative and denotative, which means that they would take on a different shade than the original meanings of the word. So to get original meanings like the ones I'm giving here, you must use an etymology dictionary. And if that is not available to you, get the oldest dictionary you could find. Alright, let me go on. So, from the unabridged, it says to bring down. So the word humble means to bring a person down. It means to reduce to a low state. And folks, my friends who could hear me, the reason I'm going through these qualities is because we need to cultivate some of them. And this particular word is a word, when you understand it, you would now understand what was done to us in the diaspora. And why this particular word may not necessarily be a quality that you might want to have if you wish to be successful in creating unity and in having the benefits of our people uniting. Let me finish. The second definition in the Noah Webster's Universal Unabridged Dictionary is to mortify. or make ashamed, as one may be humbled without true humility. So the word humble here, I'm talking about a person being made ashamed or mortified, was one of the ingredients that was used to control our people here in the diaspora. To break us, it was called the breaking process during slavery. So when you hear the word humble, exercise humility, you have to very carefully examine the motive of any person who would bring this word to you. Because this is explaining that it means to mortify, to make ashamed. You get me? I hope you all understanding. So, this word, as it was used here, and let me just give the last definition from the Noah Webster's Unabridged Universal Dictionary. To make humble or lowly in mind, to abase the pride of, to reduce the arrogance and self-dependence of, to give a low opinion of, the moral worth of, in a religious sense, to make meek and submissive to the divine will, often used reflectively to break of one's own barley, which is how the Scottish use the word, or in this case, to break off the horns of an animal with horns. So I want us to understand this word has a deep psychological effect when it is used on us. And I'm going to explain to you why. During the times of slavery, when our ancestors were being punished for doing what was natural. You're out in the cotton fields, you're working, you want to use the bathroom, you might want to invite to the side to use the bathroom. If they think you didn't pick enough cotton, you were going to be punished for that. They would whip you, they would beat you, they would humiliate you. Some cases they would rape you, man or woman, it didn't matter. With the purpose of doing the things that they mentioned here. Now, what they would do is they wouldn't punish you privately. They would punish you publicly and openly so that the other slaves would see what would be done to them if they were to do the same offense. Let me explain what happened in the subconscious minds of the witness, persons who saw these things happening. These things produced trauma in the minds of our ancestors. And the trauma would have changed their biochemistry to the point where these things would have entered into their DNA. And when they have children, and children, and grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, this trauma genetically would have been passed on to all of the generations. So, even if we hear the word humble, and we don't have a clear definition of what it is, because most of us think the word humble has to do with a person who have too much ego. But the word humble has nothing to do with that, because from the definition here, a humble person is a person with low self-esteem, who has been broken in to being less than. So I'm saying we have inherited trauma through the breaking in process or through the humbling process to make us nothing. So when we hear about the crimes, when we hear about the murders, when we hear about the high death rate among our people and our young men, we do not understand the depth of what they inherit genetically, and then when they are in a specific type of environment, how these things become activated in their DNA. When specific words are used and we hear certain words, these things trigger and activate our DNA. That causes certain reflexive behaviors. So this is why I'm not just giving definitions and clarifying words just to have an etymology class. What I'm actually trying to do is I'm trying to reverse the effect of some of the things that happen to us. Some of the trauma and some of the damage. So when our people get together in groups, if they are not mindful of their behaviors, on the aspects of their characteristics, they would be acting against the best interest of the collective. All right? So let me go back to some of the other aspects of our character that we should try to develop if we have to work together with each other. All right? The next word is resolute. All right? Resolute is borrowed from both French and Latin. The word résolu is from French and resolutus is from Latin. And it means having a fixed purpose. Determination. Bold. Firm. Steady. Constant in pursuit of purpose. Determined and absolute. Alright? The next word is dignity. Believe me, if we were able to get our youths to develop these aspects of their characteristics, we wouldn't have to worry about crime and murders. Because this process is a deprogramming process. We are encouraging our devotees and those who are involved in Ifa and Orisa tradition to cultivate Omoluabi, strong qualities. These are just some of them. The next word is dignified, of which the root word is the word is dignified, right? Then we have dignify, we have dignifier, and we have dignifier. All right? The word dignity speaks about worth, nobility, honorable estate or office, nobility or gravity of manner. It comes from the French dignite and the Latin dignitas, right? Which is from the word dignus, which means to be worthy, to be proud, and to be disdainful. All right? These are the words. These are the words that I have given definitions for, because I want us to be clear on these particular qualities, because we're speaking about forming a community where people live harmoniously together. All right? Mind you, when I talk about community, I'm not talking about everybody living in one place. I'm talking about wherever you are, working together with other people like yourself to receive the benefits of so doing. All other communities are doing this. All right? I'm going to read now a few of the qualities, other qualities that is used in Isheshe for Omoluabi. Right? You're going to hear a repeat of some of those that I mentioned that is essential for us in the diaspora. that also is being used in Isheshe. Alright? Truthfulness they have as the first quality, honesty as the second quality, benevolence as the third quality, understanding, hopefulness, patience, dedication, humility. These are the qualities that are used in Isheshe to describe Omoluabi, which is a person of having a good ethical character and a gentle character. Alright? The term good character is Iwa Rere. Alright? What I mentioned earlier was Iwa Pèlé, which is a gentle character. Now, these are the qualities in Isheshe that persons who are a part of any group of people, in this case Ifá-Orisa devotees, who are working together. These are the things that we have to watch out for. And for us in the diaspora in particular, because of the conditioning and the social environment that we've been conditioned to function in, from the plantation now to the modern plantation, which is the workplace. Not my opinion. That is called the Best and Levitt theory. It's a sociological theory that was written by the same Lloyd Best from right here in Trinidad and a Jewish lady by the name of Levitt. Alright? That theory explains that the same principles that ran the plantation also run most of the working rules in industries. Okay? And believe me, I've spent time in labor. I worked in labor for almost 5 years, and I can clearly describe to you the principles that govern a work environment is the said principles that govern the plantation. Alright? Let me make it clear. We all compete in our workspace. We competed in the plantation when we were picking cotton, planting cane, planting rice. So we are still in the type of what I describe as a hostile environment. Alright? Plenty of people may not agree with me because they have different type of work cultures. Alright? The aspects of behavior and characteristics that we have to look out for as human beings are these. Alright? And this would apply to any organization where there are African people working together with other African people. We have to watch out for this first quality called anger, which in a lot of cases we deal with in an uncontrolled way, because normally it occurs instantaneously and we just emotionally react, or we allow our reflexes to take over us. If we have to work together for our collective good and benefit, we cannot allow anger to be a major part of who we are. So just as I've mentioned the positive aspects of the character that we need to build, these are the ones we need to control or eliminate. Anger being the first one. The second one is hatred. The third one is envy. The fourth one is wickedness. The fifth one is pride. Okay, and when we say pride here, we're talking about false pride. We're not talking about the type of pride that a person should have in their accomplishments. We're talking about the one that you have where if somebody mash your new shoes, you're ready to kill them. That's false pride. Okay, so even though I'm using some words, we have to put some of these words in context. Intolerance is another quality that we have to try to eliminate. Persons having differences is natural. There are so many classes of animals, but they still know to get along. They still know how to work together. Some of them even have a predatory relationship. But they still all survive. They have coping mechanisms. They know what to do. We have to have tolerance for each other. We can agree that we are different and allow other people to be different and work with them for common interest and common good. We have to learn to not be selfish. This is extremely important. The plantation have us always and continuously wanting to compete against each other. So we have developed that sense where the only person we want to take care of is ourselves and maybe our children or our spouse or our family. And the very last thing that we need to work on is something called greed. Alright? Now folks, I'm only going to do a little more for this week. And then next week, I would go a little further. So, I've dealt with Omoluabi, aspects of our characteristics that we need to correct and aspects that we need to develop as a person in order to be ready to be a part of a community. Alright, so now I'm going to give the definitions for the word community. Community is a body of people associated by common status. That's one definition from the Concise Oxford Dictionary of English Etymology. Community comes from the Latin word communitas. And the concept of that is community, fellowship. Right? From the word communis, C-O-M-M-U-N-I-S, and common. Alright? Common possession or enjoyment, that's one definition, as a community of goods. Second definition, a society of people having common rights and privileges, or common interests, or civil, political, or ecclesiastical. Alright? Under the same laws and regulations as a community of farmers. That's an example. Alright? The word community can also mean a society at large, a commonwealth, a state, a body politic, the public or people in general. And in this sense, it is used with the definite article as burdens laid upon the poorer class of the community. The other definition is common character. All right, and this is from the Webster Unabridged. All right, now I'm going to give the definition of sustainability. All right, and this is important for us to understand. But to introduce sustainability, I'm going to talk a little bit about Ifa. Ifa teaches that when one dies, one returns to earth. Some people like the term reincarnation, but the term we use is a term called Atuna. Alright, and the word Atuna is made up of two parts, Atunbi and Iwa. Alright, Atunbi means regeneration and Iwa means character. Alright, now, because we believe that we return, it is represented by a cycle that begins with our existence as a spirit. Then we are born into this life, and then we live while we are here, and then we transition or we return to the spiritual existence. Alright? Again, this concept is called Atuna. Some teach that it occurs over a period of every 7 generations. Ifa also teaches that our true home is in the abode of the invisible realm called Ikole Orun. There is a popular saying or euphemism used by our elders which states that Orun is our home, while Aye is just the marketplace. Orun is the invisible realm of the ancestors, and Aye is the earth. So what they mean by that is that is our permanent home, the spiritual home of ours. And we visit here like when you go to the market, meaning you come here for a particular time and a particular purpose. By this they mean our essence is spiritual and eternal, but our carnal existence is temporary and short-lived. All right? This analogy of the earth being a marketplace shows that while here we must strive with ourselves and with others and our environment with the aim of improving our chances of survival and success. Ifa also teaches that before our descent, we chose freely what our objectives would be. Once that was chosen, then we went before Olodumare or God for authorization and divine decree, after which we chose a character that would guide us towards the achievement of our aims while here. This process is called the selection of our destiny. All right? This is summed up in some principles that we call Akunleya, Akunlegba, and Ayamo. Akunleya has to do with our predestined choice. Akunlegba has to do with when we went and we kneeled before Olodumare. All right? Some people refer to it as our destiny ordination. And Ayamo has to do with what is called predestination. All right? Which everyone who is incarnated agreed to come. All right? And we would have agreed to how we wanted to come, whether as a man, as a woman, the status we would have, etc., etc. These are all things that we would have agreed to. All right? So in this framework, we truly know that man's purpose is to do a good work towards the building and sustaining of all existence here on earth in what we call ikoleai, right? Or what we call physical existence. So based on this, our assumption is that man, despite his forgetful nature, has a purpose which is akin to all living things, which is to function within the dictates of the natural order of the universe. Hence, we support, uphold, and sustain nature. So this is basically where the principle of sustainability comes from. And the root word of sustainability is to sustain. All right? Now that we have comprehended the terms sustainable and community, we can now discuss fully how we can work towards the development of this concept in a practical, workable way. All right? A sustainable community meets the current needs of the people that are here. But these needs are met in such a way that it ensures that the future generations can be able to live a good quality of life and have their needs met also. So we live a good quality life, yet we want to ensure that those who come after us could do the same thing. All right? So this means we must not harm or destroy our environment. Why? Because when we destroy our environment, we lower the quality of life that we have. For example, the quality of the air that we breathe. If we were to have more green spaces and more public spaces, particularly in the cities, and these things are there to improve the quality of the air that we breathe, then we would be supporting the natural environment and enhancing even what we have already that might be destructive. All right, so to have a better health for not just ourselves, men here I'm talking about, but also for the elderly, the disabled, and in particular women and children, because they represent the future generations. All right, we also have to pay attention to grow an economy without the negative environmental impacts. All right, now these ideas, many of them were introduced through policies of the United Nations. But what I'm discussing is things that we need to understand as a community of people if we are to work within the framework of nature collectively to improve not only our environment but also to improve our own quality of life as a community. All right, so we're talking about growing an economy without the negative environmental impact. Right? We're talking about efforts to strengthen, to protect, to safeguard, and to develop our cultural heritage as well as the natural heritage of the earth. All right? We're talking about providing relevant, practical, and smart education. So we need curriculums that are going to cover things that are relevant, practical, and smart. But one of the keys to the education we need now is to bring our people out of the conditions that they have, minds have been injured and damaged therewith. All right, and with that, I would like to close off for this week, and next week we will continue on building a sustainable community one step at a time. Listen, people, the time for unity is today. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Do you know on today's date, the stock market around the world has taken a plunge? Do we understand that what that possibly could mean for our future? Listen, my people, it is time we get together. We try to develop ourselves. First, we all have to work on ourselves individually and develop the qualities that I've mentioned earlier. And we also have to work on the ones that I read last that are destroying us as a people. We do not have all these murders by accident. A lot of these things have to do with the conditioning of our minds. We have to recondition our minds. We have to educate our youths and give them a sense of value and let them know that they are not what they are being told by the current education system and the current conditioning and state of mind. All right. So with that, I would like to say thank you all for viewing. I would also like to say you do good for yourself. You do bad for yourself. All right. I would also like to say may Olodumare bless you. May Olodumare bless your family. May Olodumare bless your community and our nation by extension. And with that, I would like to say Odabo and see you next week. Remember to share, to like, and also to make comments, ask questions, so that I would be able to provide guidance on matters of Ifa mainly, Ifa and Orisa, as well as on things concerning our community, our unity, and our development. Odabo.